at the PTSD diagnostic criteria A through F met. Do you see that question there?
Yes.
Do you see the number of symptoms endorsed? It says maximum 17. You see that?
Yes.
And it says 17 there, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Let's take a look at the other one that you provided to me on a separate date back on March 18th of 2013, this year, Exhibit 535. Let's take a look at that. This is Jody Arias. You see that? Same question, post-traumatic stress disorder diagnostic criteria, A through F met.
Yes,
question.
I scored that twice.
Sir, numbers are different, aren't they?
Yes, I scored that twice.
You're making all of these changes, aren't you, sir?
No.
Sustained.
Sir, that's a change. Isn't it? From one, yes or no?
I rescored it twice.
Yes or no, that's a change, right?
It's a change.
And you only disclosed one of the changes, didn't you?
Objection as to disclosure, Judge. These weren't disclosed to begin with.
Sustained.
Sir, the numbers do not coincide, do they?
That's correct. I had misplaced that particular worksheet. And in preparation for testimony, I decided to rescore it. And I rescored it, and the score may be different by a point or two, but both scores meet the criteria. There's no difference in terms of the outcome of that test based on the score of 17 or 15.
Didn't that training of 35 years teach you to be accurate?
Absolutely, but I didn't have training as a typist, and I omitted a couple of numbers, which I then corrected prior to coming to court.
And you, however, released this report for publication.
I
to
did.
other side, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And you did that even though you had the opportunity to review it, right?
I didn't review the specifics of that section until I started to prepare for trial, when my review revealed to me that I had omitted two of the criteria that were otherwise listed in the body of the report.
Nothing precluded you from reviewing that before you made it a final copy, did it?
That's true. I omitted those numbers and letters, and I made an error.
And in 35 years of experience, doesn't that experience teach you to be very careful in going over your reports?
It does, and I was, but I obviously missed those.
And in fact, you know that these are reports that people are going to rely on, right?
Yes.
And you've testified other times with regard to reports, correct?
Absolutely.
And the accuracy of the report is something that you know is sacrosanct, isn't it?
That's right.
But you failed that in this particular case with regard to this report.
I did omit those letters and numbers.
Isn't it true that you have changed or done things like exhibit number 550? And then exhibit number 535. Isn't it true that you've done things like that because you have sympathy or are biased toward the defendant?
Absolutely not.
Isn't it true, sir, that it is an ethical issue for you to have, for example, Exhibit 535 represented as the only raw data, and then have Exhibit number 550 of the same person, same test, scored differently without you telling anybody any? Isn't that an ethical dilemma for you?
I recalculated the items because I had misplaced the sheet. And I wanted to recalculate so that I would have something to refer to, knowing that the first copy was sent in as part of my evaluation. But I didn't have access to it. So I recalculated it again so that I would have something to review when I was going through my reports. However, I might point out to you that either score met the criteria. It did not change the utility of the test.
But you're not answering my question. This does not run afoul of the psychiatric guidelines, what you just did in this case, where you have Exhibit 535, where you scored something, correct?
The original exhibit is the one that I submitted. The second one occurred because I did not have access to that, and I needed to have those numbers in front of me when I was doing my review.
I understand all of those justifications, but my question to you is, in terms of the ethical guidelines, Exhibit number 550 is the one that has the dots that are filled in, right?
Yes,
You filled those dots in, right?
yes,
It wasn't the defendant that filled those dots in, right?
that's correct.
You're the person who scored this test, right?
Yes,
And you're also the person that scored number 535.